acts as the treasurer. Kit acts as the treasurer of the organization, but also I think of her as the manager. And for all these years since 1966, I've heard these interesting stories. And she was always very loyal in telling us when she was taking off and when she was coming back. And so more recent with the uprisings, we're really glad to hear about that. And she'll explain a little bit about that. And she's with the president of the organization, Frank Williams, who's has filled a role that's been really important to this group and how they have progressed. So I will turn it over to them to give the presentation that I think we'll all find very worthwhile about administering nonprofits in these third world countries.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jean. I just wanted to start out saying I know that all of you or most of you knew my brother Tom. He was a pretty phenomenal guy. My other brother and I learned early in life that there was no way we were going to live up to his legacy. But he was mighty special to us, and I know to many of you. Sharing that Scott did at the very beginning on the work of Christmas speaks directly to what we are trying to do in Haiti. We've actually used that poem, shared it with our donors before because of the relevance of it to what we do. And we're very excited today to be able to share some good news from Haiti. Most everything you hear on the news out of Haiti is going to be bad, but there are good things happening in Haiti. So we're just thankful to have this opportunity to give you a little background on what we're doing. I've got a few pictures to give you a feeling of what it's like in the part of Haiti where we minister. And I'm going to start that, and then I'm going to have Frank share a little about how we got involved in Haiti, and then come back and go through some of the different areas, different things, different ways that we serve the people there. So let me get my screen share going. Maybe. Okay, does that look good?
Yes.
You can see the map. Okay. Just wanted you to know where we work in Haiti. The base of our ministries in this area, which is about an hour and a half north of Port-au-Prince. And then we also do some work over here on the island of Loganoff. We're very fortunate. A lot of what you hear coming out of Haiti about the gangs and the difficulties takes place from Port-au-Prince over towards the Dominican, and then Port-au-Prince out this direction. And so once we get out of Port-au-Prince and started on the road up to our place, we've been very fortunate that there's not been as many problems in that part of the country. So I want to throw it over to Frank and let him share some about how we got there. And then, like I said, we'll go on with some of the specifics about what our ministry does there.
Hey guys, thanks for having us today. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, well, like Kit said, it started 25 years ago, and we were invited to the church that Kit and I both attended. I was invited with the pastor to go and do what they call Christmas for Haiti. I actually didn't even know anything about Haiti. Be honest with you, my geography wasn't that great. I really didn't even know where Haiti was. I knew it was down south, but that was about it. And so we had the opportunity. There were 12 of us that went down with this organization out of Florida, and we did what they called Christmas for Haiti, where there were 10,000 gifts that were distributed around Haiti. And when I was there that week, like anybody that gets the opportunity to go on a mission trip, especially a short-term mission trip in a third world country, you're moved in such a way that you want to do all you can to try to help. And but this picture right here is the market. Those are shoes for sale there. So that's your typical shoe store in Haiti. But so you know, I have a background in architecture and building and development. And the lady that we were working with, the missionary there in Haiti, she caught wind of that. And so she wanted me to help her develop and build some things in Haiti. And I was excited about helping. And so I went back 4 times in the first year, that the first time and 3 other times, then became extremely involved with the group out of Florida. Was kind of on their board, not officially, but worked kind of as a board member. And we continued down that path, introduced Kit's son to Haiti, Chris, and then through Chris being there, wanted mom to come, and Kit, she always worked either with me or for me, basically for the last 30 years in some capacity. So it made sense to bring her on board as we started our own ministry in Haiti. And I lean on Kit quite a bit in a lot of areas of life, not just Haiti, but Haiti's a majority of it. And so, yeah, the group we were with, their vision became a little different than what we wanted to do. We saw a great need of helping the people and establishing schools and churches and feeding programs and medical attention, as well as all kinds of vocational. And the ministry we were originally working with probably put more emphasis on just the spiritual side, which is good. But there's a book called The Whole in the Gospel, or The Whole Gospel, and it combines the spiritual with the physical. And we felt like the group we were with was lacking a little bit of physical help there. So we established Sundaloy Ministries, SMI, and been going strong ever since. So I don't know what
Okay.
else Kit wants me to share, what she's been on sharing. So.
Okay, well, like I said, I'm going to move on to some of the specifics of the ministry and then pull Frank back, especially on construction, and then after a while on what our vision is. This is a picture taken from one of my favorite places in Haiti. We call it the porch. It's on the 2nd floor of the mission house where we currently stay. And it's taken at my favorite time of day there. I don't know if Frank sees it as often as I do when we're in Haiti, but this is the sun coming up over the mountains. I like to be out there at that time of morning if I can make it happen.
My room faces west.
He watches the sunset over the ocean, and I go up on the porch because I'm in the 1st floor, so I don't have a view like this. So I go up and watch the sunrise. I saw this illustration just a week or so ago and thought it shows really well what we try to do in Haiti, fill in that hole that Frank was talking about in the gospel. If you look at the ladder on the left and you think of it as an illustration of someone who's trying to make a normal progression to having a successful life, the ability to take care of themselves, take care of their family, there's certain steps that you have to go through to get there. The ladder in the middle is more of what someone in Haiti would face when they start at the bottom, because sometimes they can't get to the first rung, and if they get to it, they can't get it to the next rung. So a lot of the areas where we have ministry are focused on meeting or inserting rungs into the ladders for the people. The first one would be just basic sustenance, food, water, and housing. And that's not the focus of our ministry. That's not what we want to do all our time, but people have to have that, or they don't have any hope of progressing up towards being able to care for their family. So some of the other areas where we fill in rungs are the preschool and elementary school, the secondary school, literacy classes, health and education, prenatal classes for adults, technical school and university. And then the final and one of the most important steps is providing job opportunities for Haitians. The very first one would be the food, water, and housing. And I know you all mentioned that you had helped with a well in Haiti, and we've dug several wells. These are all accessible to the communities to use. This one is the last one that was dug, and it is free flowing. When we finish our mission house and we use it for water, we're going to have to put a pump in and pump it up to a tank, but right now, for the use of the community, they take showers with it and gather water from it all the time. There's no need for a pump. It just flows. Another area is our feeding program, and we focus on the children at our schools. It's very important that the children aren't hungry during the day or they can't focus on their studies. And if we provide meals for these school children, then we're helping the families, all the family, because then that frees up money that they have where they can take care of their other children or meet other needs for the family. So I've got a few pictures of our children. These are children in one of our 5 primary schools. I like this one because the little boy in the front kind of illustrates what the children are like before they eat in the morning. We feed them mid-morning, because most of them come to school without any breakfast, and they begin to kind of get weary about 10:30. So that's about the time that we'll feed them lunch. School lets out in Haiti pretty early because it's so hot in the afternoons. And then another area of our feeding program is the way that we serve the local communities. This is not ongoing, but whenever there's an emergency, when there's a lack of food in the areas, then we'll buy rice and beans at the market and have our guys pack it up. And our pastors, local pastors, help us know which families are in the greatest need. So then we can distribute this to help the people through those emergency times. Another area of need is housing. This is a quadruplex that we built in the community where we're now building our new mission house. And this has 4 units in it. So 4 families have 2-room houses and then a porch area. And the families all came from this community, and they had housing that was the type that gave no relief from rain or other elements. This is a picture of a goat, which you might wonder what that has to do with housing. But I was with a team in Haiti this summer, and they had brought money to buy a couple of goats. One of them went to one of our students, and we asked the pastor, this is the pastor in that local church, to recommend a family that could really use a goat. They don't drink goat milk, but they will breed the goats and then sell the babies, and then eventually they'll eat their goat, start all over again with one of the baby goats. So he told us that right away that he knew what family needed this goat. This young man is one of our students in our school, and he's the oldest of the children in the family. This is what they were living in. It was just a couple of pieces of tin held up by some sticks and some cloth hung over it. This was July, which is the time of the year. It's just like Florida. Almost every afternoon you get a thunderstorm, and you're going into the time of year when there's a possibility for hurricanes. So the team that was with us, and then some people here from where Frank and I work, raised money, and we were able to provide this 2-room concrete block house for them.
Oh, God.
Pretty nice things.
So this is the younger members of the family, and the church that provided the money for to finish the house raised enough money to buy all these furnishings.
What?
Gene Gnuse family.
So this is another house that belonged to one of the children in one of our schools. My theory is when you walk inside the home and there's about as much sunlight inside as there is outside, you can be sure that you're not protected very well from the elements. And that was the situation at this house. It was just 1 room, and there were many, many holes in the roof, as well as you can tell the open sides. So we didn't have money to build a house for them, but I asked, could we possibly find a place to rent for them? And within just a few hours, we were directed to this house. It didn't look exactly like that when we found it, but our team went in, cleaned it all up, painted inside, painted the porch. And so this family now has a nice, secure, dry home to live in. We have 2 schools now. The first one we started in 2010, just after the earthquake. We were in the spring of that year, we were in the village where we currently live or stay. And we had noticed that not very many of the children had uniforms on. All school children in Haiti wear a school uniform, whether they go to public school or private school. But when it's 10 o'clock in the morning and there are lots of children running around and none of them have uniforms on, you can be pretty sure they're not enrolled in school. So we asked the pastor about that, and he said there wasn't a school in their community. Asked if we would pray about starting a school. So you've got to be careful what questions you ask, because by September of that year, we had started our first school, which had 2 kindergarten classes, first, second, and third grade. Now that school is in a new building. We've got K3 through the 8th grade there this year, and we'll be adding the 9th grade next year.
Wow.
So this is a playground set that one of the churches goes with us, purchased. The kids had never had anything like that before. We didn't know how long it would last. They're on it all the time, but it's been 2 years now, I think, since that was put up, and they enjoy it every day. As a matter of fact, we have to watch out when school's not in, because they'll climb over the wall to come play on the playground. It's just a simple backyard playground, but it's something really special for them. These are some of our kindergarten students in that school. And then this picture is at the second school that we started just this fall. We've got 2 kindergarten classes, first and second grade there. And most of these students either have never been to school or they hadn't been going to school for the last couple of years. So then we'll do the same thing here. We'll add a grade a year to this school until we eventually finish the primary school there. After the children leave primary school, we give them the opportunity to have their tuition paid at secondary school. And this one, the secondary school, they have to take a moto or some transportation to get there. But we had 45 students enrolled in the secondary school this last fall. We come across needs. I don't know, we don't start out necessarily with the plan to have a program. But when we recognize a need and we feel that it's something that we can meet, then we'll start a program for it. And one of the ones we started this last year was the literacy program at one of our churches, because there's so many adults in the villages that don't read. I think the literacy rate in Haiti is about 61%, but that's way smaller for the lower than that for the adult population. This gentleman has been the custodian at our school since we started. I had no idea that he couldn't read until I found out he was enrolled in the literacy program. You'll notice both of those men have glasses, and that's why I said one need kind of leads to another one. We have a lot of reading glasses that have been donated to us. And so we realized that we had these older people taking literacy classes, but many of them couldn't see very well to read. So this was the day that we took the glasses up and let them come, and we just spread them out and let them find one that helps them.
Yeah.
This is one of our prenatal infant care classes. In 2013, we started a class at the local clinic. The women at that one come once a month, and it's an education program. But then there's a nurse that teaches them, and she gives them an exam each month. They have training classes on nutrition, breastfeeding, how to care for a newborn, warning signs in a newborn, what to expect during birth. Each mother's given a birthing kit in case they do give birth at home, and probably about a third of them or more do that. They're given a birthing kit so that they have everything they need to have a clean, sanitary birth. This is the nurse midwife who's teaching our classes. We started a second program last January, and she teaches there once a week. We serving women from 2 different communities at that class. This one is the class when I was there this last summer. This is the class that meets at the hospital or clinic. A lot of these women are illiterate, and the nurse midwife has songs that she teaches them so that they can learn and remember the things that they've been taught, especially at this time she was teaching them about warning signs for your infant, when you should take your infant to the hospital or to see the doctor. And they put all of that to music, and then the women sing it over and over again so that they'll remember what they've been told. The woman in the pink dress in the middle, it looks pretty old to be at a prenatal class, but she is one of 2 midwives in that village. When we started the program, we invited them to come We didn't want them to think that we were trying to put them out of business. We don't deliver babies. We just try to provide information and help for the women. And they have come to every class, I believe. So they come, and so not only are the women learning, but the local midwives are learning. The nurse that teaches it is a graduate nurse and graduate midwife. So she's got a lot of training, and she works so well with these women. One of our churches has a technical school where they have classes in computer, glass cutting, tile laying, and I think their most popular class is cooking. A few times when we've been there, we've had their graduates come, or their instructor, one or other, come and give a little lesson to our American team. And this is the women putting together a meal for us, showing us how they go through the preparation of that meal. And you can see that presentation is very important to them. And then I'm going to throw it back to Frank to talk some about the construction that we do.
Okay, well, everything that we do, fortunately or unfortunately, has to have some type of infrastructure. So whether it's a school, a church, vocational health and education, prenatal class, it all takes facilities, it all takes water, electricity, which all those things happen. You know, a lot of people want to give the money for the program, but they have to understand, to have the program, we have to have the facility. And so we hire about 100 Haitians locally annually to build facilities. This is one of the largest churches that we're affiliated with. This church was the church that was established when I started going to Haiti. He is the first pastor I met. He is part of our team, and their church is considered one of our churches. This facility can seat 2,500 people. It's one of the largest churches from Port-au-Prince to Camp Haitian. And so there's also a school here, which is the secondary school that we send our kids to. And they run, 800 to 1,000 sometimes, depending on the year. But as you can see, we have the ability to build very nice facilities in Haiti. This is at our new mission compound. This is the church. We try to establish the church before we do anything else. And so this is a typical prototype church, and it's going really fast there. So I don't know what happened, but it's a block building with steel truss roof, metal deck. And again, we buy 95% of all of our material in Haiti. We use 90% of Haitian workers. And so all that money, even though it's going to a facility and construction, it's actually going into the economy of Haiti. That allows those individuals to be able to send their kids to school or pay for food. That's the playground that Kit was speaking of earlier. That building on the left is the new school building. It's actually a lot further along than what that picture shows today. But we always take teams in. They love to have the Americans work with the Haitians. We don't make them do all the work, and we don't do all the work. We try to build relationships and do it together. And that's kind of a neat build. Can you go back a picture? Is that impossible, Kit? That right there kind of gives you a stage. You can see where it's painted there. It's smooth and clean. On the right there, that's a little rougher. And before that, it looks like block. And so the construction takes stages. That's 4 classrooms in our newest school. The building to the left there, that area is where we have our prenatal. That's our health and education center. And then the building on the right there, that's the backside of our church, where we actually added 2 more classrooms. And so we do a lot of concrete construction in Haiti. And so that's inside the Health and Education Center. That's the foyer. That blue wall, there's a door right there that enters into the library, which Kit was just. And so we have quite a volume of books that we need to get in there. It's basically completed. We just haven't started operating there because we're not there. We've not moved over to that area yet. And so we want to be careful what we have there for security reasons. We don't want all our books to walk away. And so, but we're excited about having this library for the children. That's a typical, this area right here is actually going to be the dental and probably eye clinic area in our health education center. We have been donated really nice dental equipment, dental chairs. We have, like Kit said, quite a bit of eyeglasses, so we can put an eye chart up on the wall. And so that area will probably be used for dental and eye. This is our new mission house that is under construction. This is pretty early on in the construction, but to the left there, that building on the upstairs, those are more like hotel rooms. Instead of a house, they sleep 6 people with a private bathroom. And they can sleep as many as 12 if we do bunk beds. We'll probably make it more like 8. And we have 4 of those rooms. So in that building, somewhere between 24 and 30 people could come with us in a group. And like I said, that facility is a lot further. You notice underneath there, there's a little bitty mini excavator and a skid steer. Those were donated by individuals that have gone to Haiti with us and had a relationship. And we wanted one of those about 25 years ago, and we got it about 2 years ago. And so we went 23 years digging everything by hand. So those were 2 great blessings for our ministry. And just more pictures, so.
We talked about how job creation is a major part of what we do. These 5 teachers are the teachers at our elementary school, our new elementary school, and they represent all of the staff that we have at the 2 schools. And I don't remember exactly how many that is, but I think it's about between 50 and 60 people that we employ between our teachers and our staff and our administration at those 2 schools.
Kit, you're muted.
Sorry. This is our nurse midwife, and so we have this one, and then we also employ a nurse from the local hospital who works with us once a month to teach classes there. These are some of the laborers that Frank was talking about that we hire as often as we have money to keep construction going. Then these guys are working, they haven't been working for a few weeks, but they're going to be going back to work next week. We're working some more on the mission house. This is kind of an old picture of, we call them our workers or our helpers. Charlie and Richie and what's down here have been with us since the 90s. Charlie and Richie are 2 of our translators. Charlemagne lived right outside the wall of the orphanage where we stayed when we first started going to Haiti. He was a young boy, bringing coloring books and giving candy, and he's been hanging on ever since. Jeffy is Charlie's son, and he's come along now. He's a big help to us. T. Junior and Sandy were both children at that orphanage. T. Junior's our sous chef in the kitchen now, and Sammy is our right-hand man in Haiti. We're going to do what we do there. Without him, he's through electrical school, lived in Port-au-Prince during the earthquake, lived in a tent for a while. I might tell you a little bit more about Sammy. Wilkie is one of our translators. This young man is deaf, but he's one of our hardest workers, and he is one of our primary security people because he can't hear, but he sees absolutely everything. Nothing gets by us. And this is Sammy's wife. Sammy and his wife and their 2 young children at our current mission house, and they'll be moving with us to the new. Just quickly, some of the other things we do, because when I have time for questions and a little bit more about how we manage there, but these are teachers who've gone through teacher training, pastor training. This is Girls Club. We work with the teenage girls. This is a little boy that has special needs that we've been working with, hoping to get him enrolled in the special needs school as soon as that school gets going in the area of our current mission house. This little girl is one whose mother died, but she lives with her grandma and helping her make sure she's got enough food, and she's enrolled in our new school. And then this little girl with her hands on her hips is Rosita. This picture was taken at the first mission house we went to, and you can kind of tell from her pose that she had an attitude then. She has an attitude now, but that attitude has served her pretty well.
And that's Sammy over her shoulder there in the white shirt. Yeah.
Right up there.
Yeah.
He was kind of skinny then. Rosita had to leave the orphanage when she was a teenager, but another American helped send her to a Catholic school in Haiti. And then when she finished that school, she asked us if we would help her go to nursing school. Our thought was consider a nursing school and that she would be working with us for the rest of her life. She went to nursing school in Port-au-Prince, and then she finished in the Dominican Republic. When she was ready to start the last semester, she called me and she said, "Mom, I don't want to do my clinicals. I really want to finish my business degree," which she did. And she started her own business, making and selling hair care products in Haiti. She made a lot of connections in Port-au-Prince. And she is now the cultural attaché at the Haitian embassy in Madrid. And she also was enrolled in graduate school there, finishing, working on a master's degree in international diplomacy. So she's kind of illustrates for us that these people aren't without hope. They just need those rungs filled in their ladder. That's what we did for her.
Nope.
You've not been able to hear me, have you?
We could, you're soft, but I could certainly hear you. We were just a
Okay.
little. We
You're
had
probably
to-
hearing me through Frank's computer.
I think we were, but no, it was
yeah.
good. Yeah.
I kept it muted because the echo's pretty bad. But this is Rosmita, and like I said, she was one of the children at the original orphanage, and now she is in graduate school in Spain. Still keeps in touch with us all the time, and it's just exciting what has been done through her life. These are some more pictures from the mission house. What we do there now, we could never do. We could never have done 25 years ago, because we're in contact with our staff there every day. I'm in contact with the pastors on a regular basis, and we're in contact with Sammy about every day. When we first went, there were no cell phones. There was no way to communicate. Even if there was an emergency, it was difficult to communicate. But like I said, because of the advances, you can't always get a good signal, but you can move around until you find one, so that we can take care of that. We have very capable and reliable Haitian staff and our pastors who oversee all of the areas of our ministry there. Frank, why don't you share just a little bit about Sammy, and then about what our vision is for the future.
Okay, and when she was talking about Rosmita, and you saw her in that picture when she was an orphan. I met Rosmita and Sammy 25 years ago in past November. Sammy was and it still happens to this day. Whenever you bring in a mission group or a trip, there's always that one kid that everybody falls in love with. Sammy was that for me. Quick story. He came up to me and he asked me if I had a battery, which didn't make much sense. And back then we had no electricity. We used oil lamps, and it was my first trip into Haiti. It was dark. It was a little scary. And I said, "What do you need a battery for?" So he took my hand and he walked me into his room, and he had two wires, a little cardboard box with a bottle cap on it, a pull tab. And then those two wires ran to a Christmas tree light over his bed. And so when I handed him that battery, put it in that box and contacted that tab, and that little Christmas tree lit up over his bed so he could read. And it did something to me. He just became like my son right then. And so, like Kit was saying, was able to go to electrical school, became an electrician, and was living in Port-au-Prince during the earthquake. His mother and father passed away when he was young, and that's why he was living in the orphanage, but he was living with his grandmother. They were watching a movie or television of some sort, him and his girlfriend and some other relatives and friends, and he got a phone call, and he didn't want to disturb them. So he got up and walked out the front door. And the second he walked out the front door, the earthquake hit and everyone in the house was killed. And so God spared him from that. And he moved into a tent. We got him out of the tent and he became working with us. And like Kit said, we could not do Haiti without him. He from our banking to hiring people, making sure kids are taken care of at school and teachers are taken care of, and communication with pastors, contractors. 100% of what we do goes through Sammy in Haiti. And he was 12 when I met him, and that was 25 years ago. So I think he's actually around 28. 38. Is that right, Kit? Yeah, he's around 38 years old, married, 2 children. And so Sammy and Rosmita, both of them, a different path. Both of them were 2 children I met 25 years ago in that orphanage that are now have huge roles, and both of them are very successful in their own right. Sammy there in Haiti, and Rosmita afar, but she's, it's just exactly what our goal is for everyone. Now, everyone don't become a Sammy and Rosmita, but they do get educated, they do get help, they do get fed, they're given hope, and their lives are changed. And we love the fact that when we came into this new village where we're building this mission home, they had nothing there. And it's almost unusual to think that they've been surviving generation after generation. That was the road at the new place. And no school, no church, children weren't educated. And that was just their way of life. They fished, and it's right down on the water, and they figured out a way to survive. And since we've come in there, the children are healthy, there's clean water, they're now being educated. There's just so many things happening. And we're excited about everyone that's partnered with us and all that we've been able to do through that. So, and then the future.
Sorry, Frank, but can I just interrupt before you?
Sure.
Because we do have a stop at 1:30. That's our normal meeting. Valerie, are you able to stay on a few minutes? Keep this open?
Sure.
Sure, okay. I've got, Frank, I'm gonna have to drop off within a minute or two.
That's fine.
Because I have another commitment, and it's possible we'll lose some others who have other Zoom meetings or whatever. But I did want to ask one question before you talk about the future. The Rotary Club of New Canaan is, Rotary is a large organization, thousands of clubs, but we're in a little cluster of 4 clubs, which is called Area 1. We actually have a meeting tomorrow, and we exchange ideas on speakers. If one or more, there would only be 1 or 2 Rotary clubs in our area were interested in this amazing presentation, would you and Kit be willing to do it again if they
Sure.
want it? Okay, yeah, I mean,
Use the video.
We might be better a second time.
I cannot imagine that's possible. It was fantastic, but we'll do that. So leave it out. I just wanted to ask that. So Valerie, I thought we might share that with the others tomorrow.
Rob, I wanted to mention real quickly, you said, I believe that you came from South Africa. Is that correct?
I came here as a young man in the 70s. I was in Michigan on a work exchange for 2 years, and then I went back to South Africa, and I came here in to live in 1988. So I've lived about 2/3 my adult life in the States, but that's where I grew up. Yeah.
We have a couple who are both Lutheran ministers in North Carolina who are from South Africa, both of them, and they're very invested in our ministry. So I just found that an interesting connection.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, good. All right, there's a gentleman on the screen there.
Oh.
So I'm afraid I'll stay on maybe 1 or 2 minutes as Frank talks, but excuse me if I'll just drop off when I have to, but
Be me.
I'm sure Valerie can keep it. It's Frank. I couldn't see the top of his head. Okay, Frank, you go.
Well, I don't know if there's a lot to to say other than what you've seen, and we're just hoping to do more of that. Our goal is always to continue to move forward. There's a lot of property around our new mission home that if we could expand some things, agricultural, we'd love to have some farms. We've even talked about a fish farm, being able to teach them how to grow their own food, take care of their own livestock. You know, our main goal is to help them try to become self-sufficient in whatever way that is. And we would love to do youth camps, keep expanding our school and education program. And so there's a lot to do still. I'm not as young as I was when I went. I was only 28, and I don't know how many years Kit has left, maybe 20, because the Gnuses live forever. So I'm hoping to have her there for another 20 years, but we have a lot to do. And so if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
Frank and Kit, this is Christine. I have a quick questions. Approximately how much does it cost to build, say, a quadruplex or a church or a health
So-
area?
A typical standard church is about $30,000 US. And a quadplex like that runs about $16,000 to $20,000. We usually somewhere in that $4,000 to $5,000 a unit. We can do a 2-bedroom home or 2-room home. We call it 2-bedroom because they utilize it that way. But yeah, that's typical. Now, just like everything else, prices go up and it's hard to get materials, and it's the same for Haiti. And a lot of it has to do with the exchange rate. There are times that the US dollar is worth $20 in Haiti, and sometimes it's only worth $7 in Haiti. So you never know, but that's typical.
That house that I showed you that we built this summer was $5,300 for the
Yeah.
2 rooms and porch, covered porch. Of course, if you're doing a quadruplex, it's cheaper because you've got shared walls.
I was thinking I had made an appointment with Dr. Sidney, but I couldn't find any, he didn't comment on it. And I have just found it, the 19th of January, Wednesday.
And Kit and Frank, how do you raise your funds? Is it from most of your client folks back here in the States, or how does the funding work for you?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, 100% of all of our funding comes from the United States. Nobody in Haiti is donating any money to us, but a lot of it is individual. Most of it's individual. We do have a few churches that sponsor us on a monthly basis, and a lot of it's volume. We love the large gifts, and usually at the year end, we get some rather large gifts from individuals or corporations. But throughout the year, it's really made up, and Kit and I've talked about this. We have to raise about $600,000 a year just to keep the lights on. And do what we do. Usually 100 to 200 of that can come at the year end with large donations. But that other 300, 400, 500,000, that happens with a bunch of individuals, literally hundreds and hundreds of individuals giving small amounts every month. And so a lot of times when people don't think what they're doing is helping, it really does when it adds up. And but there's a lot of people will take on a project, and I don't know exactly your all's situation in your program, but like you said, a quad or a church or a well drilling or a school building or 4 new classrooms, and people will sponsor that. And those are part of that budget, but that's how that stuff gets done throughout the year.
Our school students are individual. We have individual sponsorships for them. We've got, not all the students are sponsored. They all go to school, so we have to make it up somewhere. But that's the way that education is sponsored. Our health, our teachers for the 2 prenatal classes are covered by a family here in the States. And then the extra expenses that are involved in that, we have to cover from other ways. So there's just, people get interested in a particular area, and usually that's what they invest in.
Some give to general fund, and the problem with that is well, it's not a problem, it's a great blessing, but if we have 300 kids that go to school and 200 are sponsored, that 100 comes out of that general fund. So that limits us what we can do with our general fund. And, you know, we don't have people getting paid out of these donations other than the Haitian staff. And so about 100% of all the money that's given to anything goes directly into Haiti. So if you gave a church, let's say you built a church and it was $30,000 and you wrote a check for $30,000, we don't send 25 over and keep 5,000 for overhead or anything for our part. The 30,000 goes to the church. Now there are people that help sponsor different individuals in their ability to be able to go to Haiti and their plane tickets and maybe give them a little finance along the way. But for the most part, 100% goes to the project.
Any other questions?
Good presentation.
I want to say
Yes,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. I'm sure that Ann and Karen and John and Bill all know best, that we've been watching her go off on these trips and had no idea her own humility of what a phenomenal job she's doing. I see Ann there, very right. It's amazing, amazing. Right.
Well, thank you
and
all. I'm going to stop recording and we can continue
yes,
to chat.
okay.